Good evening, everybody. I didn't feel like doing Tigers tonight because that's John. It has to be
Well,
John. John has to be there.
and we're not really doing Tigers tonight.
Yeah,
I guess I should talk about that. So John, you and I all decided that Tigers tonight was a laborious. It was, and the grind had sort of got to us. I don't know, for those who don't know, that I was doing it for 14 years and John did it for 13, and it just became monotonous. I still want to do these podcasts from time to time, but I would say that we probably won't do this every week. It may be some combination of the three of us every week, but it's so hard. The other thing, and I'll be honest with everybody, like when we had Gabe on last year, it really kind of opened my eyes to, he's much younger, and his stories are from the last 10 years, whereas my stories are from 30 years ago, right? Nobody wants to hear my stories anymore. And so as I've sort of gotten my mind wrapped around the fact that at 52, people aren't as interested in hearing my takes. That's just a fact. And so I guess I did want to speak on that. That was something that we all talked about. John and I had been thinking about that at least since the end of last season. So we won't be at the game. I mean, we'll be at the games as fans, but we won't be covering the games as media. You may go, Bryan. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll still be watching since I'm in New York, so I'll still watch it. I'll still have, the podcast every week, but just kind of like rebranded to TSR Tonight. I mean,
Right.
the podcast before, I'm like, I didn't know what to call it, so it was like the unnamed podcast.
No, I thought that was a great idea, and we just it won't be like it was before. We're not going to have someone covering the game every week and all of that. I mean, we'll get on here and we'll shoot the breeze, but it's not going to be like it was. And so, anyway, we are going to do a podcast, but it won't be what we were doing before.
Yeah, just a little bit different, but we're still.
And I believe this is going to be behind the paywall, correct? I mean, more or less at TSR.
No, not this one. But we will have behind paywall.
So right,
podcasts.
So okay. There'll be podcasts that we do that are behind the paywall as well. So okay.
Yeah, and before we get into 2023, let me throw up just a kind of like a video highlight of last season. Let me find it here, so that way we can kind of like just get into the mood. Let's see.
He's throwing up and in the mood. We are.
Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, because I mean, I thought it was just a pretty cool idea just to take a look at some of them. It may make you angry because there's going to be clips in there from from the ECU game. I think I edited out like the final portions of it, but anyway, we'll have
Houston, TC or ECU. Those are tough games, tough roll, and then you got Tulane and those was a tough streak to live with, right? And you look back on it now, and I guess this is a good time maybe to recap. You look back on it now. I mean, we've all talked about how close that team was to winning 8 or 9 games, right? by all accounts, they probably should have won. But I think that's – and we're going to talk about Silverfield later, I know, because I am.
Yeah. We will. Yeah.
But I think that's been his career so far, right? Almost. Woulda, shoulda. And as much as I love Ryan personally, and I do, it speaks for itself. The inexplicable losses speak for themselves, right, Bryan? I mean, I don't think there's any other way to say it.
Yeah. No, there's and the first year was the COVID year, 8 wins, and you're thinking, you know what?
We got something here.
You got something, yeah. There's not a drop off, and then all of a sudden, 2-6-6
and you come out the next year 3-0, right?
Yeah. Well, even last year, didn't Memphis start off like 4-1?
4-0, and
no, I thought Memphis lost the first one to Mississippi State.
Right, you're right. 4-1. And but you so you're thinking, okay, and then you come out and you're just curb stomping Houston, excuse me, and lose that game. And then you lose ECU. And then you lose to Tulane. And you just never seem to get momentum again. And that has been the story of Silverfield's career the last 2 years anyway, which is once the team starts going in the down direction, and you can go ahead, once that team starts going in that down direction, we haven't been able to turn around. Now, this is the Navy game, which I think may have been the best game they played all last year. Now, albeit against a physically inferior opponent. I love Navy. I love the young men that are there. But from an athletic standpoint, Memphis is much more athletic.
Yeah. And I didn't have it like in order. I just picked stuff and threw it together.
I thought it was ironic that this was the first touchdown that Memphis was scored by Jay Drucker, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he scores the last touchdown of the season on a long run. And Ducker. So I just think, albeit against probably the second teamers from state, but still, I think Jay Ducker. We'll talk about the running back position, of course, but and I thought it was good that in this game that Memphis came back and
they fought their way back. Yeah.
I don't know that he ever got the 35
for the 15-yard touchdown.
But
chops, he knows he's going to take a shot, which he did. You're staring down the barrel.
And even with all the losses, I think you didn't see, in my opinion anyway, you didn't see the kids really give up.
Well, so the North Texas game was probably another solid game by
this year
on both sides of the ball, right? Because we got
snap and let it rip to the end zone. It's got a man.
We got offensive touchdowns and defensive touchdowns.
Touchdown, Javon Ivory, and the Tigers
are back. We were even trailing in that game, but but we were clearly.
Get the handoff, put his head down and rumble into the end zone.
And that was one of the first times where we had actually lined up under center and done that.
And it's broken up and
yeah, see, here's one of the defensive.
By the Memphis defense. It's Jalen Allen.
And this is what we'll see more of.
Well,
in the coming season.
Not just, not necessarily scoring, but getting your hands on the football and taking the ball away and giving your team a short field. And, boy, we're going to miss Collins so much.
Yeah.
Right? Aren't we? See, this is what I'm talking about right here. You take advantage of a miscue right here. You get the ball, and early in the fourth quarter, you're up 2 scores, and
get the handoff. Try to
power it in. And basically, you put the game away with a defensive takeaway, right?
And score lead.
We're going to talk about the defense because everything I heard has been that the defense is way ahead of the offense right now.
that they're running it in the
Right or wrong,
touchdown,
that's what I've heard.
Thomas on first down.
Yeah,
That is complete.
I think I would agree with that. But I know, speaking to some folks that went to the practice, there was a lot of times where you saw a lot of the second unit. You saw a lot of the backups. And I think defensively, when you look at the backups, defensively is way ahead of the offense as far as the backups.
Well, I'll add this. It's not abnormal for the defense to be ahead of the offense in camp. But what is abnormal is
Warner over the middle. Intercepted.
oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about the tip pass.
On the return inside
But
the
what is
20.
abnormal is
To the
for
ground.
the offense to be
He's
somewhat
in there.
ineffective,
Memphis.
which is what I've been hearing, especially with a senior-laden team.
Makes plays.
Oh boy, we got off
Yeah.
to a fast start here in this game.
Memphis.
And you're thinking, okay, you're coming back off the Houston loss. Okay, there's no hangover. We're
Snap is good.
coming back.
Kick is
You
good.
know, we're gonna make up
Their
for
big
that.
red zone threat to tight end.
Yeah.
I mean, you're up 17-0 in this
They throw
game.
it to the outside.
And guys, I got to be
Lewis
honest
and
with you.
Steady Eddie.
You
Breaks
cannot
the goal line.
allow that game to get away, and they did. They did it because of some.
Throwing to the end zone. Yes, touchdown. Joe Skates.
What a gutsy play right there.
Yeah.
They just let the game get away from you guys.
I think this is the only clip from overtime that I put in here because I'm like,
Yeah, let's
I
go.
didn't wanna- I was like, I didn't want to bring up too much old wounds. Yeah, that was it.
You know, the SMU game was
Just
one of
trying
the
to power his way to the goal
games
line,
where we
and he
got off to a
scores.
fast start, and we
Trying the
certainly
end around. Rogers
had
going
our
to get into the end
chances.
zone. He'll walk in.
Yeah.
I'm just. And I don't know if we're going to talk about conference realignment, but that's
Tight ends on the
Oh, we will,
that's
yeah.
the mid of this game. There's very few games that I've been angry
Instead of
about,
initiating.
and the Houston game last year was one of them. I was extremely upset with how that game ended.
In time for two.
Yeah, no, Houston broke Memphis there for a little bit.
Intercepted across the middle. The first turnover.
Yeah, there's no
of the
excuse
night.
for that.
Wendell Johnson got there. Third interception of the
How long do you
season
think
for 15
Holgerson
and
makes
one.
it in the Big 12?
Man, I give it 2 years.
5. Hennigan's going to keep it.
I'm with you.
RPO out to the tight end. Bruce scored.
I'm actually with you on that one.
All he does is what?
Score touchdowns.
Preschool will be
Unbelievable.
missed.
It's so unbelievable we lost this game.
Could be
Oh, I
two
know.
passes.
This was my favorite play of the game.
And the heat by Rogers. End zone touchdown.
I mean,
Penalty marker
it's
back at
just
the 45.
shocking that we lost that game.
What a play call to start the fourth
But
quarter.
regardless, we did. So, you know, and those were some good memories, and some of them elicited some not so good memories.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, you still finished 7-6, and that goes back to what we said earlier, Bryan. You know, woulda, shoulda, coulda, and you know, unfortunately, you don't get credit for, you know, shoulda. I mean, we should have won, but you know, there's only wins and losses, and that's, I'm sure we're going to talk about that this year coming up.
Yeah. When you take a look, the difference between his Silverfield's first year and his his third year was finishing, and I think that's why, you know, there's such a push to finish. You know, he's talking, you know, about finishing the play, finishing the game, you know, finishing this season. The emphasis on finishing the game this year is because his first year, the Tigers, you know, won the majority of the close games. You know, one possession games, they won more than they lost. His second and third year, last year was 0-4 in one possession games. And those 4 games were conference games. You win those games, you're in the AAC championship game last year. But that's the difference between his first year and last year is, they could not win the close games.
And that's honestly since a lot of Norvell's guys, let's just say it. I mean, when Norvell's guys started to filter out, I mean, that's when that happened, right? I mean, you have Brady the second year, but or Brady that last
first year. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you don't have him. And so, I mean, Brady White won the USF game for us that year. Almost won the SMU game for us. If we don't fumble the football, we probably win that game. So, it makes a difference, right? And so as Norvell's guys began to graduate out, and that's nothing on Ryan. I told Ryan to his face on our show, I think he's a great recruiter, but you have to coach, and those guys have got to perform in the clutch. One of the things that I thought was interesting, we had Gabe on the show last year, and he was talking about the Houston game, which was Tom Herman's last game at Houston. It was, I was at that game, and it came down basically to the last play where Memphis scored with 40-something seconds to go. And he said, we had seen that defense. We had practiced against that defense many times that week. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to tell the fans listening right now, I don't see that level of preparation going on right now. I don't see the level of, and that's the difference between winning a close game and losing a close game. It really is that. I mean, you have to prepare. You have to prepare down. I mean, to the point of exhaustion. Mm-hmm. I remember running the same defense a dozen times in a row during practice. I mean, just over and over and over and over until it was rote memory, until the point of I was like, gosh, if I did this one more time, I'm going to, as you put it, throw up. And I don't see that level right now. That's where we're at.
Yeah, I think, and I hate to go back to the young excuse, but they were. And I think that's why this year is going to be so much of a different year. I'll go ahead and throw up the media poll. Because all the, he's Silverfield's had the back-to-back, best recruiting classes ever. Well, those classes are now juniors and sophomores. That's the majority of this team is his kids that are from, the best ever, classes at Memphis. So when you look at this preseason media poll, what jumps out at you?
To me, the fact the Tulane love, I'm not buying it. And then UTSA, obviously, we all think UTSA is a good team. What I think, and by the way, was that your first place vote for Memphis?
I did the only one. Now, I still never found who gave UAB a first place vote.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't think that's the correct order. I think it's probably SMU, Memphis, UTSA, Tulane, but it could literally go any of those four could win it.
Yeah.
But I mean, Tulane is didn't they lose their quarterback? Didn't Pratt finally graduate?
No, Pratt's back.
He's coming back.
Yeah, he's back. He was at the AAC media day
for year 9. He's on the DeAndre Williams plan.
Yeah.
And UTSA's got their quarterback. All 4 of those schools got their quarterbacks back, coming back. So But you're right, Brian. Like it's got to go. The young excuse is not. We're not buying it anymore. This is it. He's got to show that who he's been recruiting. We've been saying he's the best recruiter. Now it's time to coach those kids to be a good team, not in some distant future, but now. And because if you're redshirt sophomores, juniors, those guys are the guys that they've got to be producing. I mean, that's obviously you want your seniors, but you've got, we've got Hennigan as a junior. We went out and we loaded up on transfers, which we're going to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
The time to win is now. And look, any one of those four teams, like I don't think that, you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think any of those other three teams are significantly better talent-wise than we are.
No, there out of those four, two of them only have one tough. When I say tough, top four. When you take a look at the top four, any of those that play of the top four, UTSA only has one matchup against the top four in the AAC, and that's Tulane, and they play at Tulane. SMU only has one. They play at Memphis. So it's Tulane and Memphis that plays two. So, obviously Tulane has at Memphis, home against UTSA, and Memphis, both of their tough games are at home.
Right.
That, to
Tulane
me,
and SMU. Yep.
Tulane and SMU. And that's why I gave the slight edge to Memphis winning the conference, because their tough games are at home. And Memphis plays very well at home. I mean, what was it, 1998, the last time Tulane won at Memphis? And then you have, what is it, SMU? And it's, if I'm not
they
mistaken,
haven't won here in a while either.
I would have to look that one up. But still, Memphis plays well at home, and your tough games are at home. If they can finish, just like Silverfield has been talking about during the fall camp, they're going to. To me, I think it's going to be a special year for me. I have Memphis and UTSA in the championship game. They're my top two.
I mean, I think it's Memphis and SMU, but that's only because the SMU really doesn't have. If you look at their schedule, it's sort of like ours. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like our schedule is not exactly loaded up, right?
No, I'll pull it up there for everyone.
So I'm gonna. So we're gonna move on past Bethune-Cookman, because that's obviously that's my game. I cannot tell you the number of people that have told me, "Oh wow, that Arkansas State game, man, I'm worried about that game." Look, I saw Arkansas State twice last year, here and at Southern Miss. Butch Jones can't coach. Now he may beat our brakes off. He might do it, but for what I saw last year with Blackman as his quarterback, he can't coach, guys. I'm sorry. He just can't. I'm looking at that schedule. I think that's a 3-0 start. I do.
Yeah.
And you're now you got the Thursday Navy game after Arkansas State. People are like, "Oh, you know what? Give me, that's fine." I don't like playing Navy early in the year, but I'd rather play them before they get going.
Yes.
I mean, I don't like it for our defense, but I'd rather play them before they get going. So I've got a starting 3-0.
No, I was saying that to me, the only loss before the bye week I have is Missouri.
So you've got us beating Boise State. So
I do, because
I
it's
do have
at
us
home.
going. I have us going 1-1 on those. I don't know, and you may be right that the game at St. Louis, there's going to be a lot of emotion there in that game. My only concern is you go and you beat Missouri, and then you have a letdown against Boise. But Boise's good; they're not what they were. but don't get
Mhm.
twisted. Like, they're really good. I mean, they've got good players.
And the Memphis Boise State game, to me, is the game that will decide if the American Conference or the Mountain West will be the G5 representative. Because if you look at it, if Boise wins, I mean, they don't have really anybody else on their schedule.
They don't play San Diego State this year?
See, to me, I'll have to pull up their schedule, but if I'm not mistaken, I thought that was at Boise.
Oh, it might be, but that
Yeah.
still, I mean, you've got a San Diego State. But yeah, so that was. So I think that's going to be an interesting. If you lose Missouri, then frankly, Silverfield's record after a loss is not great. So
I'll just check their schedule. They play San Diego State the week before Memphis, and they do play at San Diego State.
wow.
They have a tough schedule, and so if they play at Washington, then they play Central Florida, North Dakota, which is they're pretty good FCS team, at San Diego State, then at Memphis. I mean, it's
Wow.
quite.
That's a tough start.
If they could
yeah.
end up being just 1-3 coming into the Memphis game.
Yeah, you're going. You may be playing a desperate team, which is not great either. So anyway, and Silverfield's record after a loss is not great. So that's so I'll go ahead and say 4-1. It could be 3-2, guys. I mean, I'm just being honest with everybody. And then you're staring 3-3 in the face with Tulane coming in after a bye week on Friday, the freaking 13th. Whoever came up with that, you'd like to slap the crap out of them. But hey, look, you're at home. You got a bye week. You reset no matter what happens, and you got to start conference play.
And even if you are 3-2, let's just say they do lose to Boise, it's not a conference game. So
right.
You're still everything's still in front of you,
right? You got to reset yourself, and you got to find a way to play. I don't think Tulane will be ranked by then. I don't. I'll tell you what, they've got to go to Southern Miss. I don't know if you guys know that they do, and that's not. I mean, that's they'll probably win. But my point is that's not an easy little trek up to Hattiesburg. How Tulane got roped into that, I don't know. But hey, God bless you. And then you've got UAB. So let's say that Memphis is 4-1, and you beat Tulane. You're 5-1. Now you got something because your next two games are on the road, okay? And you've got you're at UAB and at North Texas. Now, I look, I love the whole UAB thing and rivals and whatever, but they're breaking in a new coach. It's North Texas at North Texas. I just don't see any way we lose those two games.
No, or the next two after that. To me,
I mean South Florida or Charlotte, right? You're not losing.
Yeah, this is the easy stretch.
Right.
To me, in this schedule, you have a whole month here to where I shouldn't say easy. Yeah, to get well and I don't want to say coast, but you should have comfortable wins.
That's why I was saying now you got something, because if you can beat Tulane and you're 5-1, you could be 9-1 before you know it. And now all of a sudden you got to close, but you got SMU at home, and then you're at, frankly, a pretty bad Temple team. They're going to be. I mean, we can go back to the preseason coaches poll, but I mean, so that's if you can get to Tulane past Tulane at 5-1 or 4-2, even if you lose the Tulane game, it becomes a 1-game season for you to play for the conference championship. Now, again, you got to play. And I put some caveats on that. We can't have any major injuries, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean.
And thankfully, there hasn't been any major injuries to starters in fall camp. Now, there was a season-ending injury to, a backup player that I won't, publicize, here, but you can go to the TSR message boards to find out who that was. But, as far as starters, relatively healthy. There's some folks that's been banged up, some, wide receiver that was seen with a boot, but it's nothing major. Just
that's part of camp. I mean, you look, if you get out of camp and you're not banged up a little bit, you probably have not had a good camp. I mean, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It's like spring. If you don't leave spring with some bruises and some scrapes, then it wasn't a good hard spring for you. Seriously. Now, once you get in the season, you shouldn't be hitting that much. It should be a lot of, but so honestly, camp broke up last weekend? That was the end of camp, right?
No, camp's still going on. They just it's about 10 days out, and I guess today was like the final day of regular camp, and now they're going to start shifting focus on Bethune-Cookman. Well, they'll kind of like game week.
Well, we used to break it up 2 weeks before, and then you would have 1 week of one-a-days, and then when classes started, and then but anyway, regardless of all that, if you look at the schedule, and we just broke it down,
what do you think?
The bottom. I've gone on record as saying 9-3, because I do think we lose to Tulane, and one of those games, either Missouri or Boise State, and then we probably lose to SMU. So that leaves us out of the conference championship. But
so the two home games, the toughest games, you say we'll lose.
I do,
and I'm just the opposite. I think Memphis win those. So my record, I'd say 11-1.
Wow.
I mean,
and John said 10-2.
And
I just, but let me be also very clear. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong on all of that. But and I know we're going to talk about Ryan here in a second, but there is no excuse to win less than 8 games. None.
Yeah. So
there's no excuse. You cannot.
Now we'll segue right into it. There was an article, I want to say, I think it was on Yahoo by I don't know if it was Ross or not, but the hot seat, and he was one of the ones that had the hottest seat. Do you buy into that?
Hottest seat in the conference or in the country?
They just broke down the college football hottest seat. So I guess in college football, because that's what the article was.
I'm not going to buy that, because there are dudes out there that I mean, they may be gone by week 3. Now let me be very clear. If he goes out, poops the bed against Arkansas State, and somehow manages to lose at Navy, and then gets waxed by Missouri, you're going to be, that's going to be on the table. I don't see that happening. Ryan's teams have been much better than that over the years.
Yeah.
The defense is just going to be too good for that. But there are dudes out there that might be gone before conference play. So I'm not buying he's one of the hottest seats. I would say his seat is warm, or maybe even more than warm. Maybe it is hot, but it's not blazing. He's not pants on fire. And he's got a schedule that he can win. But I mean, I'll say it right here, and I've made it public before. He's got to win 8 games. I think the over under is 8. If anything less than 8, and he's 100% gone. I have not asked anybody that, but that's the consensus. I think anything over 8, he's probably safe. So if you win 9, 10 games, he's probably safe. I can't see a scenario where he's not. At 8, that will depend on how he gets to 8. So let's say he loses both Boise and Missouri, but it's a field goal each, and it could coin toss games. He loses both SMU and Tulane, but again, they're really close. Maybe as a 1-point game, and it goes into overtime and stuff like that. You're still going to get a whole lot of fans that are going to be ticked off about that because, oh wow, here we go again. He can't win a close game. But I think you could be talked into, okay, let's give him one more year. On the other hand, if he gets your brakes beat in by Missouri, you get Boise handles us pretty well. You lose at home. There'll be 3 home losses, and you're not really being competitive. I'll tell everybody that'll listen. If he gets blown out by SMU last year, he's gone. I think everybody knows that, right? I guess everybody does.
We'll find out.
They do now.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a fact. Like, that was a well-known fact. I think Ryan even said it after the game. But so I mean, if he gets blown out by the best teams on the schedule, he's gone. Like, I just don't see it, even at 8 wins.
Yeah, I don't think it'll get to that point because I really do think that last year. And I was on a Greg Gasson show, and I said, I thought Silverfield learned his lesson, but it's not really learning your lesson. It's more of, he just learned. He's growing as a coach. I think I know he said if he had to do the same decisions that he would have, if he had to go through the same situations again, he would have made the same decisions. I really don't believe that. I think that was part of his coach speak because there's, and I wish there was some calculation where you could see, analytical, how much of his decisions are analytical and how much is gut feeling. Because I think coaches nowadays are relying too much on analytics and not gut feeling. Because especially the ECU game, I thought there was times where is that where
he went for 2 in an inexplicably weird spot.
And I'm just like, and is that wasn't that the game? He was
chasing
really
points,
trust,
and Houston,
but he didn't, and he didn't trust the kicker. Was that the ECU game where they didn't kick a field goal?
That was 2 years ago. That was
2 years ago. Oh, okay, but still, I mean, you could see. I just, to me, that's a gut. I even tweeted at the time before. I was like, kick the field goal, don't go for 2, and he goes for 2. I just think he'll do things differently because of the pressure that he's felt the past 2 years. If he's getting into the close situations, I think he'll be more careful and not. Do you feel that he's too much willy-nilly or too gung ho? Let's go for it.
No,
do you feel that
the opposite?
You think he's more reserved,
conservative? The going. And like, for example, going for 2 against ECU in overtime was an analytical decision. The easy decision is you're at home. You fought back. You kick the extra point, and you take it to the second overtime. That is a walk-off easy decision that he overthinks and overanalyzes things, Brian. He's not. it's not a situation where he's pulling the trigger, pulling stuff out of his tush. He's overthinking. And one of the things that I've said, and you may be right, maybe he's finally got it. But he's not a natural head coach. In that it's not something that comes natural to him. He's had to sort of learn it. And some guys are just born to be head coaches. They just are. And Ryan's not that dude. He may be a great leader, a great motivator. He may be a great recruiter. But in-game coach, it's not something that comes natural to him. It's just not.
Do you think because I know when Norvell got here, Daryl Dickey, he had that elder statesman.
Yep.
But I don't think Ryan really has ever had that.
Well, and there was discussion about going out and finding that guy, and it was kind of shot down by him. And so that was, I mean, you can ask him. I mean, I think he had an opportunity to do that when his two coordinators left, right?
Yeah.
And he really didn't do that. Now, I think he hired two outstanding coordinators. Let me be very clear.
Yeah.
I think I'm curious if Cramsey does more this year out of his own, if he makes the offense more his own this year, which I guess is a question for you. Do you think that Silverfield gives Cramsey more leeway this year?
I think so. And I think that Silverfield's hiring of assistant coaches has been it's a lot better now than it was when he first got the job. Because I think this year, all the players have said this is the most talented team they've been on since since Silverfield has been here. I think this is the most talented, and as far as a coaching staff, if you look at all 4 years, I think this coaching staff is the best out of all of them because who he has.
Right.
And offensively, yeah, I think Cramsey is, I don't think Cramsey had all the tools that he needs for his offense. And I think he's getting those guys. They keep talking highly of Sutton Smith. We've talked highly of Sutton Smith. We wanted to see more of him last year.
Correct.
So when you look at I did an article, a couple of weeks ago, what I think the projected depth chart is going to be. I mean, the running backs, you have Blake Watson, Jay Ducker, and Sutton Smith. To me, that's as good. It's not as good, or it's not better, but it is, to me, as good as when, Memphis had, Tony Pollard, Patrick Taylor. Now, I don't think it's better, but I think it can be as good.
Well,
because
the offensive line has got to play better, but
that's the key. That, to me, the whole season is on the offensive line.
Which I've heard so many people at the university go, it's perplexing to us that we have had such a hard time running the football when we hired the offensive line coach to be our head coach.
To me,
and
it's because of –
and it's not fans saying that. These are people on Normal Street that are saying this to me. And so – and I've heard that from several people that have wondered, and when you breach that subject with Ryan, he gets sort of bristly about it.
Yeah, I think when he had to me, he just made the wrong hire at offensive line. when he first got the job. It was a difference of philosophy because when I spoke to Jacob Likes, I'm like, what do you see this year that not that you haven't seen the past few years, but what's something different that you're seeing now from before? And he came out and said, Coach Myers thinks like Coach Silverfield. So, I mean, they're on the same wavelength. To me, that tells me Coach Bridge and Coach Silverfield had different philosophies. And to me, you got to have the same philosophy. Your head coach is the offensive, was an offensive line coach. So you have an expectation and a way of doing things. So to me, that's why I said his hiring this go round is to me light years better than what it was, because to me, Coach Myers is going to make a world of a difference with this offensive line. He needs to replace his tackles, and Pounders, for all intents and purposes, as long as he stays healthy, he's definitely got that left tackle spot.
Right.
Jacob Blake said the interior line is phenomenal. Davian Carter, right guard, like center, and left guard, Jonah Gamble. He said that they're solid. So Likes, at the AAC Media Day, was really only concerned about these two tackles. And the right tackle spot, even Silverfield at the press conference today, he mentioned 3 guys that could start at right tackle. That's, if you have those 3, to me, who wins, I'm kind of leaning toward Xavier Hill, even though in my article, I think I had Marcus Henderson, but he's one that could start, or Terrence McClain. But I think, I've been hearing that Xavier Hill, the kid that came over from LSU, is really coming on strong. But your offensive line has to play better. I mean, it has to. And now that you have an offensive line coach that thinks like your head coach, I think it's going to be smooth sailing this year.
Well, let's hope, because
yeah,
because I don't think there's any question that Matt Barnes will have the defense playing at a high level. And
phenomenal hire. Yeah.
And yeah, he will. And by the way, he's going to be a head coach somewhere. I don't know when, but both somewhere. Tremendously talented individual in terms of preparation, motivation, and the defense in this camp. Actually, if you go back to spring, they look great in the spring.
They did,
and they look great in the camp. And
they hit the transfer portal hard this past offseason. And Rivals is now ranking the transfer class. Memphis has a top 20 signing in the transfer portal. They're ranked number 20.
And they're finally solid 2 deep along the front.
Yes.
And in their entire front 7 is solid. It's not so. From a defensive standpoint, it's great to have a front 7 that's really good, but you really have to have 10 or 11 guys along that front that you can, because your linebackers, you may have 1 or 2 linebackers that are every down guys, but you're going to have to rotate in linebackers for given situations. And down linemen are the same. Some guys are good pass rushers. Some guys are better at run blocking. And some dudes are better at both, right? Some guys. Yeah. The Memphis front 7 this year is probably better than any front 7 I can remember since probably the early 2000s. And that's I mean, that's really good. I mean, you got to go back probably that 2003 group to get a better 2 deep on the front 7.
I mean, you're just the defensive tackle and nose tackle. You got Rambo Hunter, who came from Texas A&M, I believe.
Right.
Josh Ellison, who came from Oklahoma, and I'm hearing great things about.
Yeah,
those
he
two.
is unblockable. Is the term?
Yeah, and in backup, Zy Brockington, he got playing time last year, and then backing up Ellison is Josh White, who's a former 4-star. I mean, those
Loaded.
4 guys right there are gonna. I think they're gonna eat some folks alive.
They're loaded, and then you look at the linebacker. I mean, they again. I know we replaced Zay Collins but still,
But Chandler Martin from ETSU is a baller.
Yes, he is flying to the football. It's just they are loaded. Now, having said that, the downside to this defense is on the back end, and
It is, but they got better.
they have.
Yeah.
But
And I think the most important.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, definitely. And I think an important piece that or a good decisions that they made, they're moving Greg Rubin. He moved to safety.
Right.
And I think that's going to be great. Now your starting corners, who are they going to be? I mean, we'll see. I think Davion Ross, he played some last year.
I think he's got the inside track of one of those spots for sure.
And the other side, was it the Malik Feaster? I think he came from I think Jacksonville State to Florida State, and then came to Memphis. But Simeon Blair coming from Arkansas.
That's the one that everyone is saying he's probably got that spot.
Oh, easily.
But I mean, he's not. I don't know if Silverfield's named those starters yet. I don't even think have they come out with the 2 deep yet. They haven't come out with. They
haven't come out with 2 now. I mean, he's thrown hints out there about who was starting, and he's mentioned that Anthony Lamphere is the starting tight end. He did say that in today's presser.
I don't think that was we talked about him in the offseason being a guy that you'd probably see. And
Simeon Blair, there's hints like Simeon Blair has got to be one of the safeties, because why else would you bring him to the AAC Media Day? I mean, he hasn't even played it down yet, and I think he's named one of the captains. So I mean, there's little hints there that he's definitely one of them. I think him and Rubin is going to be great.
Well, yeah, and you still got to cover guys, but I mean, the defense is going to be much improved. I think even over last year, when it was much improved over the year before, and so, and that's why I said this defense is going to be good enough that if we can get a lead, I think we can hold them this year.
Yeah.
But that's going to be I just don't I think John used to have a saying, you're going to have to make me believe. And to Ryan, I'll simply say this. You got to make us believe, because right now there's a lot of evidence that you choke. And I don't know how else to say it. And he's got to break that perception. Do you not agree that that's a perception?
Choke, I wouldn't go that far.
Oh.
But you can't deny that going 0-4, in one possession games.
How about I change because choke is a rough word. How about that you make some really questionable calls when the pressure's on?
And I would agree with that, because I question a lot on our Tigers Tonight podcast all last year. How many times have I said, about the questionable calls?
Right.
So yes, I definitely agree with that.
So
I think he's
so maybe it's not joking. Maybe it's not joking, even though that is the freaking definition of joking.
Yeah.
but maybe it's not. But because that's a tough word, and I agree. But he's got to make better decisions in the clutch, and he's got all the tools this year to make it work.
To me, yeah, this is a no excuse year. You're not young. Your back-to-back best recruiting class ever is matured. You have a top 20 recruiting class in the transfer portal. There's really the schedule lines up perfectly for you.
Sure does.
Your tough games are at home, except for Missouri, which should have been at home. But yeah, everything is lined up for you. This truly is a no excuse year.
Let me ask a different question, because everybody's talking about what happens if he doesn't. What happens if Ryan does go 11-1, goes to the conference championship? He loses the conference championship. Who cares? He goes to a really good bowl. Like you go play, I don't know, Armed Forces Bowl or something nice, right? You go Fenway, right? You enjoy that. But my point is, he goes somewhere, plays a P. It's not even P5 anymore. There's what
P4,
P2, whatever the hell it is now. Excuse my French. But he goes and wins that game. Okay, so he goes 12-2. Do you ink him to a long-term deal? That's a whole different question. Nobody's asked that.
It would, yeah. To me, I would ink him to a long-term deal, but the devil's in the details. I would not have the buyout. I wouldn't have a large buyout, or
he's not going to sign that.
I know, but
and so here that would be your quandary, because everything we just said still applies.
Yes.
It's all lined up. Now, if he goes out next year and does it again,
that's when I would do a long term. Now, if he does it 1 year, but if he does it this year, maybe a 1 year extension.
See, I want to see him do it with a different quarterback.
You might get that. If Hennigan has a great year, he may leave. We'll see.
We'll see.
But before we get into conference realignment, and then we'll get out of here, bold prediction for this year, whether it's offense, defense, coaching staff, just a bold prediction that maybe no one's talking about.
The Tigers' defense is the best defense that we've had in the last 20 years, and Matt Barnes gets a really good job at a really big program.
You stole it from me. I was going to say that this is going to be the best defense. I think this defense is going to be better.
You asked me first.
Yeah, I know. I should have went first. But, I agree with you, because I think this defense will be better than the Barry Odom defense. What was that, 2014, 2015, when they had a top 25 defense?
Yep.
I think this defense will be better than that by far. I really think this could be a top, maybe not top 15, but definitely top
25.
20 to 23, because I think they'll be better than 25. But we'll see. That'd be my bold prediction. Since you took the defense, I'll do this. Silverfield wins Coach of the Year in the AAC. Because go 11-1, win the championship, and then everyone else on Twitter can call me the homer, the the positive Paul.
You're the positive Paul. I'm the voice of reason. We got to remember that. So conference realignment. Let's dive straight in. And the Pac-12 is no more. News broke today that I don't know if it's done, but it sounds like it's done, that Stanford, Cal, and SMU are going to the ACC. In order to get a buy-in, SMU is, I heard 7 years, you heard 5 years, is going to take either 5 or 7 years of no payouts at all, taking no money. That's unbelievable, but good for them. Hot take. How much does the AAC miss SMU? Exactly. Your look says it all, because that's exactly the way I feel.
Yeah, I don't think they miss them that much, to be honest.
Not as much as we miss UCF and Cincinnati.
Exactly, because I think they'll miss the Dallas market, but you still got North Texas, which is in Denton, which that's close.
It's right at it. Believe me, I flew into Dallas and drove to Denton.
So I think who do you bring in, if anybody? Because I think you can bring in.
I wouldn't bring in anybody.
See, I would.
I would bring in. I would bring in if they'll come. I would bring in Oregon State and Washington State.
Yeah, I think they'll Mountain West. I really do think that's where they go.
No, I'm not. But you asked who, and I knew that. I mean,
here's who I would bring, and no one has mentioned it anywhere. And I think because it's such an up and coming team, I just really see good things. James Madison is who I would invite. I'm thinking football wise, basketball. I don't know about their basketball or anything else. I think they're pretty good in baseball, but football wise, James Madison. What do you think about that?
Not blowing my skirt up.
But
I don't get into that too much. I'd love for them to take the best of the Mountain West, best of the AAC, and Oregon State, Washington State, and figure it out. But whatever. I'm so done with conference realignment at this point.
Me too.
And I'll add this real fast, and I know we're over our hour. I do think, and I'm not a Jeff Calkins apologist or whatever. Jeff is fine. I don't have any problems with Jeff personally. I've met him several times, but I do think that race and the perceptions of Memphis, the city, and the university does play a role in why we have been consistently left out. And I think the perception of the school as being largely African-American, the city being largely African-American, and the quote-unquote crime, etc. And I do think that plays a role. And I think for us not to say that is disingenuous, to be honest with you. So to me, I don't buy it's the size of the market. I don't believe that.
No, because Memphis is a top 50 market, is it not?
Yeah, I mean it's not that. It is perception.
Yeah.
Of the university as not being a great school, and perception of the city as being crime ridden.
I don't think anyone can disagree with that.
And I don't think it's fair.
No.
But fair is what you go to in the fall. It's life isn't fair. This is entertainment, for lack of a better term. And entertainment is sometimes not fair. And so, but I did want to at least say that I do think that plays a role in it. And I think that's why Texas didn't want anything to do with this. I think that's why Stanford probably did not want anything to do with this. And not just us. Okay. They didn't want anything to do with Colorado State. They didn't want anything to do with, they considered themselves above those schools, which is fine. But I did want to at least say that conference realignment. I do think that's the last time we were involved or offered was way back in 2012, 13.
Oh, the second go around of the Big East.
Yeah. So we've been left out and consistently. And I don't think it's market size. I think it's perception, whether it's right or wrong.
Yep, definitely understand. Do you think Memphis has any shot anywhere
Not for the foreseeable future.
now? And I know.
Unless they do what I just said, which is take,
Yeah,
Oregon State, Washington State, take some parts of the Mountain West, some parts of the AC, and form something new. But I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
or maybe the Mountain West takes some parts of the AAC along with the Washington State and Oregon State. That's a possibility.
Before I forget, kudos to Conference USA for getting a grant of rights.
Yeah,
What-
I mean,
man!
what else are they going to do?
But they at least doubled their money. They went from what, 400,000 to 800,000 per school.
I mean,
That's
and
something.
it's not nothing, right? That's not
Yeah.
nothing. So good for them. I mean, I think it's good to see CUSA still around because that was rough times. So anyway, no, we got a week to go before the season starts, week and a half, I guess, before the season starts.
Yep.
And there's college football this Saturday, so thank God.
No, I can't wait. Anything else before we go?
No, we'll see you guys. I don't know if I'll see you next week, probably, but either myself or John and Bryan will be here every week.
Yep. I appreciate everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.